Ladies and gents, welcome back to the Pole Position YouTube channel for our predictions here for the third Grand Prix of the season at Suzuka. The last race we'll have for over a month with all the cancellations of races coming up. So, the last chance to predict for a while. A really exciting race I think we could get here at Suzuka. A place where in the past few years we haven't been able to overtake because of the DRS zones and the size of the cars, but now into 130L, we might see some bold moves. We might see some great moves in the middle sector as well. So I think this race will suit the new regulations. We're going to talk about that a lot this season. Some races suit, some races don't. It's this sort of high battery Grand Prix, which we're going to call it these days. But I'm very interested to see how this race finishes up. But let's jump straight into it, starting with our pole position. Now, coming off the Chinese Grand Prix, a fantastic Q3 performance from Kimi Antonelli. I'm going to back him in yet again. So Kimi Antonelli, for me, picks up pole position. I think the confidence he gets from that win in China, when we look back in the season, and if he competes or if he wins the title over George Russell, we'll look to that race there as being the most important moment. It was a great win. The way he went about it and the way he drove was very mature. And I think he's gained a lot of confidence from that there. And I think you look at him in this race here to continue that momentum. I think it'll be nip and tuck between Kimi Antonelli and George Russell. Kimi didn't do too great here last season, but again, the rookie driver, a lot of things to go on the up, and I just think Mercedes once again will be in a world of their own. I don't think anyone can really close the gap. I know they've changed the energy recharge allowance from 9 something to 8 something. I don't know what it is, but they've gone down in 1, so it might close the pack up in terms of the raw energy that can be used on the lap and how quick Mercedes are on the straights. But I still think Mercedes are well and truly clear, and I think Kimi Antonelli for me gets the job done. I think the confidence, purely the confidence from the win in China, makes sure he gets pole position. So that's my call for pole position. We're now going to come to the podium. I think it'd be very interesting. I've gone in third place, Lewis Hamilton. I think, once again, the fantastic result in China. He seems to do well at the start of the season. We saw how well he did last season at the start of his time at Ferrari. It's so important how he responds in this race here, though, because we saw him win the sprint race in China last season. We thought Lewis Hamilton was back, and then we didn't see that for the rest of the year. So massive race here. But I think, though, he's looking settled, he's looking comfortable. And I think what we're seeing is the machinery underneath him is more of what he likes and what he's more attuned to. And I think around a track like Japan, where, again, there's a lot more chances to overtake and a lot more technical parts of the circuit, with the cars a little bit more snappy and agile under him, I think Lewis Hamilton would be really well suited to this track. So I'm going to back him in to be the best of the rest, or best out of the non-Mercedes drivers. As I said, Mercedes for me are well and truly clear. They'll be another 30 seconds up the road, but Lewis Hamilton, I think, gets the better of the fight with his team. I think he seems to have won that battle quite convincingly in China, and had some moments in Australia as well where he worked his way back into the race as well. So I just think over the race distance, I back Lewis Hamilton to be consistent enough and quick enough. I wouldn't be surprised if Charles Leclerc qualifies ahead of Lewis Hamilton. We know he's not a great qualifier, but I think come the race distance, he'll get the job done. So Lewis Hamilton in third. I've gone second, Kimi Antonelli. I think he does well initially, but I think in the second phase of the Grand Prix, George Russell will come back into it. I think that overtake happens in the second phase. I think in that second stint on a new fresh set of tyres, George Russell gets the better of Kimi Antonelli. His experience, his knowing the ability to fight at the front of the grid, and his experience at the top, I think it's going to help him throughout this season, in particular a race like this, where I think Anthony might lead off the line and lead into the first pit stops. But once that gap closes up and the pressure builds on these two drivers here, I just back George Russell to be a little bit neater. So I've got Kimi Antonelli in second and George Russell up top, winning the race. As I said, I think over the race distances, he looks the quickest car. He looks the most consistent driver. And George Russell, we talk about his roboticness and his consistency and almost monotony of how he just bangs in lap after lap after lap, and he's really forgiving on his tyres as well. We see the mistakes Kimi Antonelli still makes, and adjusting that inexperience on a technical circuit over a race distance where the battery management, the tyre management is still going to be a problem. I think I edge it to George Russell. So I got George Russell winning this one here for me. As I said, I don't think he gets the lead in the first stage. I think after the first set of pit stops, that's when he comes into it and he overtakes Kimi Antonelli from there to take the top stop of the podium. So For me, George Russell finishes in first. Kimi Antonelli starts well off the line, but ends up in second. And I've got Lewis Hamilton, for me, finishing up in third place. All right, guys, we come to the good now from the weekend. I'm going to be bold with this one here. A man that did a lot of racing in the week off. I've gone with Max Verstappen to be the good. Red Bull, I think we can say, are going to be pushing for P7, P8, P9. So that's the region on the grid in terms of their finishing position. I think Max Verstappen, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say he finishes in the top 5, but more specifically, I think he might split the Ferraris. He is unbelievable around Suzuka. We saw what he did last season when the McLarens were an absolute age up the road in the early stage of the season, but Max Verstappen ended up winning that race. He knows his circuit well. He's had a week away from this car and to de-stress, and he's driven GT3 car. Like, he has taken his time away from the sport. In this little break here, he's going to come back rejuvenated, I feel like. And yes, this car is awful. But as I said, there's one man who can just get this car around and strangle it around the neck and drive it up the grid. And you think back to China before the mechanical failure, he was up there P8, P9 after dropping down to the back of the grid twice. Nothing went his way, and in the end, his engine gave way. But if he gets a decent start, if he gets off the line, and then he can be up there with the top front runners. He gets the better than the McLarens. I think he can split the Ferraris when they start fighting. And I think Max Verstappen brings home some massive points for Red Bull in this race here. As I said, they are probably the 4th or even 5th fastest car on the grid this season as we currently stand. And I reckon he finishes 4th or 5th at the end of the race. I think he's going to end up as our good from this weekend. From the good to the ugly, and I'm going to go with Audi. They've had one car have mechanical failures and not finish both Grand Prix races and also the sprint as well. It's been a topsy-turvy type season. We see some great things from them in practice and some really good one-lap pace in qualifying, but race trim hasn't quite been there. And the engine problems haven't quite been there as well. And that's why I've gone Audi to be the ugly. I think we get a double DNF for them in this race here. Third race into the new regulations, you may think, engine problems and mistakes will go down, but I just think that week off, the third race likely on these engines that they're using, I think we're going to see some mechanical failures. I think we're going to see some poor days from some teams. I think one of those teams will be Audi. As I think everyone has said, their raw one-lap pace and qualifying pace is probably up there inside of the top 5 teams. I think they get the better Red Bull on raw qualifying pace, one-lap speed. They've got the package there. But to take this engine over a race distance, it hasn't quite worked. And even their race ability in race trim hasn't quite been there as well. They've lucked their way into some decent position. They've qualified really, really well this season. But I just think that we're in for a reality check this weekend for Audi. It's been a really solid start to their campaign in Formula One. It's a big step to obviously make your own engine and become a work side. And there's gonna be some poor races you want to forget about. I think this race here this weekend, for me, I have a really bad feeling about this. It's the perfect reset after this race with that month break, but I'm just worried about what's going to happen for them this weekend. We've already seen the inconsistency and the reliability problems over the first 2 races. I think we get a real harsh reality here for Audi in this race, and they get a double DNF for me, and as such, they go down as the ugly from the weekend. Alrighty, our penultimate part of the predictions is the random predictions. So I predict the top 3, I predict the podium. But then from there, I give AI a chance to predict a number between 4 and 22. This week, it spat out 12. So just missing out on the points, but more importantly, we'll get onto it later on, finishing the race. I think there's going to be a lot of problems there. I've gone with Esteban Ocon. I think that's sort of his realm this season. Has had a really poor start to the campaign. I took last race, I predicted him to be the good because of how up and down he was last season, and he had a good race and a bad race. 2 bad races to start the season off. His teammate has absolutely killed him in the 1v1 battle already this season. I think the mentality, it could be on the ropes a little bit. And he's racing right now. Yes, he's gotten himself into some scuffles and he's made some mistakes. And I just think it really hasn't been a great start of the season for Esteban Ocon. And I can't see him fixing that in this upcoming race here. We go back to it, Suzuka, a really technical circuit, especially in that sort of first 2 sectors. High speed benefits the Haas. I think their straight line speed is up there. We know the Ferrari isn't as quick as a Mercedes, but all the Mercedes, manufacturer teams have struggled, but the Ferrari manufacturer teams did very well. So I think in terms of the battle between not the two work sides, they're probably one of the quickest packages over the track. And I think I look at this race here. We're going to get McLaren's hopefully finishing it. So there's 2 more positions. I think Arvid Lindblad makes a big response for RB. Liam Lawson, I think, is going to be fantastic. That's 4 cars outside of the top 4. You're then going to add in Max Verstappen, Isaac Hajar. You're going to add in Pierre Gasly as well. So he just sort of wandered his way down to 12th. And that might be overs for him because, if the Audis finish, they probably finish above Esteban Ocon. But I've gone with them both not finishing this race. So it might be a bit of an over prediction having him 12th. But I think the Haas car should be pushing for or achieving points most weeks, if not double points weekends. I just think runner Esteban Ocon is underperforming that car. I think he's struggling to get the grips with that car, and the pressure of his teammate Ollie Behrman being so solid is gonna be telling on him, and I think it's going to tell her once again this weekend. So 12th is not a good weekend for Esteban Ocon, but I think that's where he ends up being on Sunday. Alrighty, guys, that brings us to the final part of the prediction show here, and that comes to the storyline. What's going to break out to me over the weekend? And I think we're going to have chaos in terms of reliability and engine failures. We saw an insight into that in China. A lot of cars not finishing the race. But I think this weekend here, outside the big 3 teams being McLaren, Ferrari, and Mercedes, we've got 8 manufacturers there. I think 6 have a car drop out. And I think we get a team with a double DNF, as I said, with the Audis as well. So I possibly think we lose 6, 7, 8 cars on the weekend due to some sort of failure. Not through to crashes or damage through impact. I think pure engine reliability problems. We've seen it being teased, as I said, so far this season, but nothing concrete yet. I think we get it here in this race here in Japan. And that big month gap, we get the review of what the regulations are all about. But I just think right now, I have this really weird feeling about this weekend in terms of Audi, in terms of engines in general for sides. I think a lot of teams have some problems and we'll have to retire cars or we'll have to stop cars and bring them back out on the track. Obviously, we know it's going to be a banker with Aston Martin. I can almost bank on Audi having at least 1 car. The Cadillac's heavily inconsistent. And then from there, look, the RBs, haven't seen many problems with them yet, but they almost due a mistake. The Red Bulls had 1 drop out in each of the races. McLaren had a double DNS last time out. I think we at least get 7 cars dropping out due to engine failures in this one here. So that's my storyline. It's going to be a big talking point if that happens, a massive talking point. If I nail it, well, I'm the oracle, because that is a crazy call, I feel like, to have for this weekend. But as I said, throughout the whole predictions video, there's a really weird feeling I got about this weekend, and it's not going to be good for those sides there. But there we go. That is my predictions for this week in Suzuka, Japan. Third Grand Prix of the season already. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, guys. Who do you think wins the Japanese Grand Prix? Who qualifies on pole? Let me know that in the comment section down below. And what are your thoughts on my predictions? Hope you have a great day, guys. Enjoy the weekend's action. Can't wait to see you for the qualifying live stream on Saturday. With that being said, guys, I'll see you guys very, very soon.